So, why is Santama? So here is a 2.5-year-old child. The parents say they noticed the deformity at birth. And the child has been walking on the deformed limb. And they say there is a lot of improvement in the deformity compared to what it was previously at birth. So what do we actually see here is, if you see both the legs, there is some bowing of the tibia, which is, if you see from anterior, it's medial. And if you see from lateral side, it's posterior. So there is a medial and posterior bowing of tibia, as well as the fibula clinically. The second important point is, if you see both the tibia, the left tibial segment itself is short. And the shortening is contributed both by the deformity as well as a true shortening. And if you see the foot, I think the foot is fairly well formed. All the 5 digits are there. Okay. And the arch is nice, but there is a slight calcaneo-valgus deformity. That means if you see laterally, there is a lot of depression and the foot goes easily into valgus and I would say pronation and calcaneus deformity. And when I'm palpating, what I'm basically looking for is whether there is both the malleus are seen and whether the relation is maintained. The medial malleus at a little bit higher level than the lateral malleus. So I think the fibula on palpation is there. The lateral malleus is well down compared to the medial malleus. The bowing, I can palpate whole of the tibia medially subcutaneously, but fibula probably only the distal third. After that, I'm not able to palpate it. And so many types of bowing are there in tibia, especially in a child. So it can be confusing. Anterior bowing is there. You have anterolateral bowing. You have a posteromedial bowing. So this is it anterior, anterolateral, or posteromedial now? Posteromedial bowing. So it is important to assess it from the frontal view and the lateral view so that you see and appreciate both the planes of the deformity and not miss that thing. And you should also look whether the foot is well formed, because if there is a fibular hemimelia, which can also cause a similar deviation, you will see the absent 5th toe or 4th toe and the foot will not be well formed. Maybe you have a limitation of subtalar joint because of the tarsal collations. And in those fibular hemimelia, you will also get the shortening of femur sometimes, ACL laxity, all the signs you should look for in the whole limb when you get a fibular hemimelia. So that is important, one differential diagnosis here. And there is one entity which is called as physiological calcaneo-valgus foot. So everything is normal, there is no bending, no bowing, but you see a foot which is calcaneo-valgus. So that is, ankle is too much in dorsiflexion and it is going laterally. So if you rule out everything, it will fall into that idiopathic kind of calcaneo-valgus foot. And I think in posteromedial bowing, this is a classic example. And 2 kinds of things can happen with this in a natural history. What you expect is shortening in long term, and the deformity will be partially corrected, not fully corrected. So you have to be ready for dealing with these 2 and explain the parents beforehand. The other 2 types of deformity bowing, you all know, most common is pseudoarthrosis tibia because of the anterolateral bowing, and maybe fibrous dysplasia is one more entity. Very rarely there is an entity in less than 2-year-old child where you can get a tibia vara in the proximal tibia. Can anyone name that condition? Not in a 2-year-old child. Anything in the proximal medial tibia which can cause tibia vara? No. At 2 years old child, I think you can't call it a Blount's. Not a Cosen's. I'm not talking about trauma scenario. Congenital. Have you heard of fibrocartilaginous dysplasia? FCD. So it's a focal defect in the proximal medial tibia. They say there is a problem with pes anserinus or pulling of the physis there. So that time the children may have a proximal, something similar to the Blount's. So if you get that in a child less than 5, that unilateral especially, I think you should suspect that. Unlike Blount, which is little bit more proximal, this is usually a metaphyseal type of thing. So here, examination-wise, also do a final neurological examination to rule out if the child has any neurological issues. And I think you should be able to appreciate between the all lateral bowing, anterior bowing, and posterior medial bowing. Sir. So this child is too young, I think. There is no harm in waiting, provided the parents understand that two things can happen. One, the limb can be short. The other, the limb can be deformed, or you may not get a full correction. Many people write AFOs. I don't think they fracture frequently. Sir, have you seen a fracture in posterior medial bowing tibia? So they don't fracture. So I don't think AFO is necessary. It's just a burden on the child. You can leave the child alone. As the child grows slowly, remodeling will happen. If any residual shortening or residual angulation is there, probably 4 or 5 years would be a good age to correct it, because after that the correction doesn't happen spontaneously. And that's a good age for lengthening also. You have enough segment to do any initial procedure. So if we see in a normal ankle, of course this is a deformed ankle, but if you see on the other side, the fibular physis should lie at the ankle joint. The level of the fibular physis will be at the ankle joint. If you are suspecting fibular hemimelia, you will see the physis which is higher than that ankle joint probably. So that relation you have to see. And here, if you see the tibia is bowed medially in AP view and posteriorly in the lateral view. And both tibia and fibula are bowing. However, if you see the relation, still the lateral malleus is lower down. Both the talus and calcaneum is well formed, the foot is well formed. So I don't think we should suspect fibular hemimelia in this case. And this is a classic posterior-medial bowing of tibia. And it's a benign condition. However, the shortening and deformity are the two things which you should be concerned in the long term. If you have fibular hemimelia, the fibula lateral malleus will be higher up above the talar dome. And then you can get tarsal coalition, you can get missing rays, and you can get shortening of femur as well as tibia. You can get a coxa vara in the hip. You can get a ACL laxity in the knee. So all these things you must keep in mind. So when you get a fibular hemimelia, you should look for whole syndrome limb. Don't just look for the fibula or the ankle particularly.
Do we need to put the diagnosis as only congenital posteromedial bowing of the tibia only, sir? Or
see, one thing is clear, it's congenital. Because the parents give history, it was present at birth. Right? So, do you know of any other condition where the posteromedial bowing will be there? If you know, you can put that. Is there one? Fibular hemimelia. Fibular hemimelia. It doesn't cause the posteromedial bowing of tibia. What it can cause? It's usually lateral, not medial. Where do you see tibia valga? In fibular hemimelia, right? So this is the opposite of that. There is a tether laterally in fibular hemimelia. It always pulls laterally. It pulls the limb laterally. So the tibia has to bow that direction. It goes in valgus. It bows medially, but the direction is different. And of course, you have the fibula and lateral malleus to dictate your normal ankles. Any comments, sir? He wants to go.
No, basically, if the limb is short, it's a congenital anomaly. And if tibia is absent, you get a varus foot. If fibula is absent, you get a valgus foot. But we are seeing here a deformity of the tibia, not of the foot. In those cases, hemimelia and all, you don't get a deformity of the tibia or fibula. You get deformity of the foot.
Did you understand that, what sir said? If you imagine ankle joint, the tibial component is called medial column and fibular component is called lateral column. When the medial column is at fault, it's not present. The lateral column grows normally, so it deviates varus into internally because there is no support on the medial side. If the lateral column is not intact, the medial column grows normally and the foot goes into valgus. This is the basic principle. Because there is no support on the lateral side, it goes into valgus. The fibula is not normal, either hemimelia or absent, whatever it is. If the tibial component is not normal, hemimelia of the tibia, it goes into varus. As simple as that. That is the basic principle. You don't have to remember fibula, valgus like that. Just imagine yourself. Okay? Right.
In all the cases, the limb is short. The segment is short because it's a congenital anomaly. You have the advantage of different age groups of consultants here. A senile one on this side and young man on this side.
I say
So you
him
get
as
different thinking.
Sanatan, not senile. Sanatan means very long history with good knowledge. Don't say senile, sir.
You get different thinking.
And
Here's the advantage. If all are elderly examiners, the old thinking will be there. New thinking will not be there. But here I got a young man to...
So whatever thinking, I think the principles will remain the same. The techniques and variations will come. All the time the principle remains same, examination wise also.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Shekhar, resident of DNB resident in Sunshine Hospitals. Can I start, sir? A 44 years old male patient named Rohit came to the hospital with complaints of left upper limb instability with difficulty to the limb, difficulty to lift the left upper limb to overhead. History of present illness. Patient had a 6 years back. Patient had a history of a road traffic accident. He skid and fall from two-wheeler and a sustained injury to the left arm. Then he underwent surgery, which was closed injury. For that, he underwent surgery with plating, and immediate post-operative period was uneventful. After 3 months, he noticed swelling at the fracture site, and swelling associated with pain and fever. Then he taken medication, but swelling was not reduced. Pain subsided for some time. Then swelling gradually progressed. Then again he consulted the operator surgeon after 1 month. They diagnosed some infective foci is there. Then they did debridement, and from that onwards, every 3-4 months of intermittent period, he same complaints coming with swelling and discharging sinus up to 1.5 year. In between period, he had multiple debridements. After 1.5 year, they did implant removal, and they kept some antibiotic beads over it. 3 months later, skin healed well, and a patient resumed to his daily living activities with some limitations. And no issue.
Did the patient tell you that there were antibiotic beads?
Sir, actually,
He knew what is antibiotic bead?
Sir, he said some ball kept inside the wounds.
Okay, go ahead.
A patient was no issue of exposure to tuberculosis and no issue of.
So what I'm saying,
Yes, sir.
does the tuberculosis exposure related to this diagnosis? Going to help you in diagnosis?
No, sir.
That's what I'm saying. Don't just parrot out like that. There is no need for to say that there is no history of exposure to tuberculosis in this case particularly, isn't it?
And you mentioned that patient told instability. What was his exact words when you told instability?
రోహిత్ నువ్వు హాస్పిటల్కి ఎందుకు వచ్చావమ్మా? అన్ని పనులు చేసుకుంటున్నావా? ఏం పని చేసుకుంటావు బాబు నువ్వు? ఏం పని బాగుంది, జీవనాధారం ఏంటి నీకు? ఏం పని చేస్తుంటావు? క్యాంటీన్లో పని చేస్తావు అంతే.
So patient, I don't think he told instability at all.
నువ్వు హాస్పిటల్కి ఎందుకు వచ్చావు? నొప్పి వల్ల వచ్చావా? అది ఎప్పటి నుంచి అనిపించింది అట్లా చుట్టానికి బాగాలేదని? ఎప్పటి నుంచి? మామూలు బకెట్ ఇస్తావా? బకెట్ ఎత్తగలవు? స్కూటర్ నడపగలవా? మోటార్ సైకిల్ నడపగలవా? నడిపిస్తావు. మామూలుగా ఏమన్నా పైకి ఎత్తగలవా? యా, చెయ్యి పైకి ఎత్తమ్మా, ఎత్తు ఎత్తు. ఎస్. If you had said that the symptom is deformity, then inability to use the arm above the forehead, you said. That's what you described to us. It's a deformity. He has come for deformity. It's a cosmetic problem, in fact, for him. Right.
If you say instability, you know the case, you have been thinking retrograde. Chief complaint is always in the terms of the patient. What he says, that's the chief complaint. You don't put your own words and your examination finding. It's just what the patient says and comes. So he has shortening, he says accepted. He has inability to lift the limb, accepted. If you give these complaints, that is enough. Don't put instability there. It's not a chief complaint there. It's not knee or hip.
So in the first you should take the symptoms. There's a principal symptom and your secondary symptoms. Like suppose somebody has got pain is the first symptom. Then following that there is swelling like that. Here he has got a deformity. Then in the history of present illness, you should know what type of, it is not spontaneous, isn't it? Deformity is not spontaneous. Following bit is followed by some trauma. So you have to characterize the trauma. Is it trivial trauma, or direct trauma, or violent trauma, or indirect trauma, all those things. But the trauma at the time, then you can put the question, was there any bleeding following injury, following trauma, whatever it is. You can say blood వచ్చింది బయటికి. That's what they describe. So it's compound injury. That's why then he has gone to a hospital. Then they have done some surgical procedures, a series of surgical procedures. You should say he has gone to the hospital and they have done some series of surgical procedures. That's all. Don't say, as sir said, cemented beads or vancomycin beads, no, all these are not necessary. He has undergone some surgical procedures. That word of undergoing surgical procedure has got a bearing on your clinical diagnosis and a bearing on your management also, treatment also. So those are very important for us here. Okay?
Summarize the points.
So in the history of what do you understand? Just summarize the history of present illness, up to history of present illness.
Traumatic event.
Following post-traumatic event.
Then he developed infection. Two things.
He developed whatever infection and he has come with deformity.
Yes, different.
Okay, following trauma, he's been operated number of times. He has come with a deformity. Yeah. Right. Next.
Shekhar, nobody is giving you marks. Don't be scared.
That's what I'm saying.
Here,
Don't get
just
worried. See, you make mistakes
your own
here.
things.
Don't worry. You make mistakes here.
Having any discharging signs?
No, sir. Healed wells. After that, after implant removal, then onwards, since 4 years, he didn't have any.
That comes under examination. After examination, you will talk about those sciences, active or passive, healed or non-healed, like that.
Past history insignificant, sir. And personal history okay, sir. And general examination, head to toe exam. Patient was moderate.
Are you worried there's something about in personal history?
Actual
Suppose if he is a smoker.
Yes, smoker. He is not smoker.
Yeah, that's what.
Yes.
He's a non-smoker.
Non-smoker. And general examination. Patient was moderately built, moderately nourished. Head to toe examination. There is no pallor, no icterus, and no sinuses, no clubbing. Mm. Local examination. On inspection, left upper limb is wasting compared to right, and shortening. It seems to be shortening and angular deformation. Angular deformity of the left arm, and scars present, multiple scars present anterior aspect and posterior aspect of the arm, and there is no discharging signs.
What type of scars are there?
Puckered scars.
Is it a surgical scar or
Surgical
because
because
of surgery?
of
Because of the compound injury.
because of surgeries.
So when you say scar, you should know whether it's a post-traumatic scar or a post-surgical scar. Okay? When it's a post-surgical scar, did the scar healed by primary intention or secondary intention? Okay?
Yes.
If it is traumatic scar, what do you understand by healed by secondary intention? Normally the surgical scar will be linear, like a thin line-like thing.
Yes, sir.
When the scar is stretched horizontally or it is puckered anywhere somewhere, then you can say it healed by a
Healed
secondary
secondary.
intention. Yes.
Posterior aspect scar is healed one single line.
How many scars are there on inspection?
3, sir.
3.
Yes.
Where are they?
2 anterior, 1 is posterior.
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Anterior 2 is secondary healing, sir. They are puckered.
Hmm?
Posterior 1 is
So there are
straight
some
lines.
puckered scars on the anterior side
Anterior
of, the,
sides.
of the arm, and posteriorly there are no. It's a nice scar, healed
Nice.
nicely, primary intention.
Yes.
Okay, right.
At any point, if the audience has any question, they can always interrupt. This is we are not just questioning him. Anybody can ask anything if they have doubt, if they have attended a previous such session.
That
there
boy
was
standing
something
there
to
is a
be
student?
clarified.
Yeah, you. No, you can come down here. He's not.
I said you can raise your hand, ask a doubt. Feel free because this meeting is meant for exchange of knowledge. So feel free to ask any doubt you have.
The one who is presenting is not the only one who has come here to learn. So everybody can ask anything. If they have examined, not examined, also related to the questions and answers, they can ask always.
Yes, sir. There is no swelling, sir. On inspection, there is no swelling. There is no swelling. Sir. There is no any active discharging sinus, sir.
That's what I'm saying. You are not actually participating. Do you see any swelling there from there? There's no swelling in the middle of the arm? A nodular thing like thing? Do you expect something there in the arm as a nodule? Do you see any nodules in the anterior part of the arm normally?
Yes.
It's there or not? On inspection,
Yes.
you have not touched the patient. On inspection, are you able to see a nodular swelling anteriorly? Yes or no?
Yes, that's
Yes
swelling.
or no, please? Yeah.
Palpation. There is no local rise of temperature.
Good.
And tenderness present, deep palpation.
Where did you see for localized temperature? Suppose you said there is no swelling.
Yes, sir.
Where did you see for localized temperature?
The deformity part.
Oh, the deformity.
Deformity and
Yeah.
scar sites,
Yes,
previous scar sites.
yes.
Uh,
Yeah, palpation starts with localized temperature and then tenderness. If there is
Yeah.
swelling,
irre-
consistency of the swelling. It starts with that. And confirm the inspector findings. That means the swelling is there, the size of the swelling, shape of the swelling, site of the swelling, surface of the swelling, margins of the swelling, skin of the swelling. All S should follow immediately. Following 1, 2, 3. Localized temperature, tenderness, and consistency of the swelling. Okay? If there is no swelling, no swelling, no deformity at all, then you start with palpation. You palpate the area where you find some abnormality. Over that area, if the tenderness, local warmth is present or not. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yes or no? Yes. Yes.
In such cases, do we need to see the temperature over the entire segment of the limb, sir? Will it be better, sir?
That's what I said. On palpation. On palpation, the palpation starts with the localized temperature, tenderness, and consistency of the swelling. Okay? Followed by confirmation of the inspector finding. If you find a swelling, suppose there is no swelling, then where do you see the temperature? There should be tenderness.
Yes.
Over the tender area, the temperature rise or not. Imagine a situation, there is, let us say, osteomyelitis of the humerus, diaphyseal humerus, there is osteomyelitis. There is no tenderness, there is no swelling at all. It looks, the whole gut of the upper limb arm is increased compared to other side. Where do you want to see the tenderness, rise of temperature? Over the tender point. So the palpation starts with the localized temperature, tenderness, and consistency of swelling. Then confirm your inspector findings, okay? If there's no swelling, then go for tenderness first and rise of temperature next. Because there's no swelling, there's nothing like consistency. Got the point? Is it clear? So if you remember this systematic way, you will never make a mistake at all.
Skin adherent to the underlying tissue, sir. That scar tissue adhere to the underlying tissue. Abnormal mobility at the fracture site in both planes, sir, coronal and sagittal planes, and irregularity present at the fracture ends. Fracture ends smooth present.
How do you know that there's a fracture there?
Sir,
How do you know that there's a fracture there?
sir, the indent of the
That's what I said. I found a nodular swelling on inspection. On palpation, again I see for temperature there, tenderness is there,
Yes.
and if it is swelling like thing, I will talk about consistency.
Yes.
It's a bony consistency,
Bony
which is
consistency.
moving with the movement of the distal part of the
distal
arm.
part.
So it's nothing but to the end of the bone. That's how you should make your presentation. Is it clear? On inspection, there is nodular swelling. We do not know on inspection because I had not touched the patient. But on palpation, I touched him. I found a nodular swelling, which is hard in consistency, which is mobile with the movement of the distal part of the or elbow, whatever it is, distal part of the arm. So it's not a swelling, it's the end of the bone you are able to see. Normally, we don't see the ends of the bone in the middle of the arm. Isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
Right.
One more evidence here is what sir wanted to say is there is an independent mobility there. This is the whole segment.
Yes, sir.
Shoulder or elbow moves. If you have an independent mobility in the between, that means something is wrong with the segment.
He said abnormal.
Abnormal. There is no transmitted movement.
How do you demonstrate if you want to demonstrate abnormal mobility? Where do you put your hands and examine?
Yeah, yes, sir. I will hold first.
Can you show on him?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, proximal joint, I stabilize it. Proximally, distally, I hold the and
That's what I want to know. Where do you hold proximally? Where
proximal.
do you hold distally? There is abnormal mobility there. That's what you want to demonstrate. You think there is a fracture.
Yes.
Where do you put your hands?
Where do you put your left hand here?
Where do you put your right hand? Where do you put your left hand?
Put your left hand over the elbow joint. No, reverse. Don't cross your hands. Yeah, right. And any movement in the sagittal plane or coronal plane is abnormal. Move in the same direction. Move it anteroposterior and mediolateral. Yeah, distract it. We are pressing it inside. Yeah. Now produce the movement
Yes.
in the mediolateral direction. Mediolateral direction. Medial. Yeah. And then anteroposterior. And that's all.
If you want to demonstrate abnormal mobility, the fracture site, one hand must be just above the fracture, second hand must be as far away as possible without including the joint. So right hand must be just above the fracture site. That's the fulcrum. And the left hand distal end of the humerus, producing a long lever arm. Even if there is a small movement is there, you can easily demonstrate. Otherwise, you miss. In this case, there is a gross abnormal mobility. If you have minimal movement, you will not be able to demonstrate. So one hand must be acting as a fulcrum just above the fracture site. The other hand must be as far away as possible without including any joint in between. So you shouldn't go to the forearm, lying in the arm only, distal end of the humerus. So same with all the long bones. Otherwise you won't be able to demonstrate. Okay, go ahead.
Measurement, restricted. Actually, elbow flexion, I checked for range of movement, sir. Elbow is 40 degree FFD, sir. Range of movement, sir.
How did you check the elbow movements?
Sir, I holded the distal fragment.
Distal fragment, okay.
Yes, sir.
How do you
And-
check the shoulder movement?
I holded this proximal fragment and lifted, sir. Moving along with the scapula, sir. While I am trying to move the shoulder, it's moving with
Is there any shoulder movement or not? Shoulder means glenohumeral
Humeral.
joint.
movement is there, sir, but some restricted. Movement is there, sir, with restriction. Not free is moving.
You don't need the two words. Movement is there, but restricted. Movement is restricted అంటే సరిపోతుంది కదా. The movement is restricted.
Movement is restricted. Shortening, sir. Yes, sir.
Does he have active elbow movement? That's what he's asking.
He is having, sir, but while trying flexion extension, moving there in at fracture site, sir. Doing.
Does he have passive elbow movements?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is.
You can make out the movements of the elbow joint passively.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how much is
So-
flexion? Is it full? Flexion is full? Passively. Flexion.
90.
Yeah, so the limitation of the flexion up to 90 degrees passively.
Yes.
Extension is full?
No, sir.
Is full?
Not, sir.
Yeah, that's what.
40.
Yeah, this is very important. The elbow movements after so-called problem in this case is very important preoperatively when you want to tackle it again now.
Shortening 7 centimeters. Shortening is there, sir. Right arm.
Okay.
And waist.
What next?
Like
Over?
The radial
there is no
distal
lymphatic-
neurovascular deficits.
no
Are they
distal
important or
neurovascular
not?
deficit, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it
Wrist
important?
arm is good, sir.
Is it important or not?
Important, sir. In humerus shaft fractures, probably chance of radial nerve palsy is there, sir.
So you should look
I
for
checked,
it.
sir.
Hmm.
Active dorsiflexion present, sir. Active finger movements present, and sensations present. All three nerves intact, sir.
So there is no distal
Neurovascular.
neurovascular deficit. Anything proximally?
No, I checked sensation, sir.
Sensation?
Can you do active abduction of the shoulder joint? The first, up to 90 degrees at least?
No,
Actively? No.
not.
Cheyi itlanu Rohit? Cheyi itlanu?
No. He's moving posteriorly, sir. Not.
నీకు పక్కకని ఇట్లా వెనక్కి తీసుకోమాకు ముందుకే ఇట్లా జస్ట్ డిమాన్స్ట్రేట్ ఆన్ దిస్ సైడ్ ఫస్ట్ ఆన్ నార్మల్ సైడ్
చెయ్యి ఇలా చూడండి, ఇలా అనండి. ఈ కుడి వైపు.
అట్లాను అటువైపు
ఇది వైపు.
అండ్ పుట్ యువర్
Is-
హ్యాండ్స్ ఆన్ ది డెల్టాయిడ్ ఈజ్ ఇట్ కంట్రాక్టింగ్ ఆర్ నాట్ రిలాక్స్
Relax, relax. ఇప్పుడు
భుజం
చేయండి.
పైకెత్తకు భుజం పైకెత్తకుండా చెయ్యి పైకని ఇట్లా భుజం పైకెత్తకు
Not much.
There is no contraction of deltoid beneath your fingers. You are not able to appreciate that.
రిలాక్స్. రిలాక్స్. చేయండి ఇప్పుడు.
No? So there's no.
Is the deltoid contracting or not?
Not contracting. Wasting is there, sir, actually, here. Deltoid wasting is there.
Wasted deltoid can also contract.
I can check first normal, sir. Then
Contracting? Yeah. Is it paralyzed or not? That's what we want to know.
Try to lift, you can see the muscle becoming
Yes.
taut already. You don't need to put your finger.
Yeah.
If you are in doubt, then you can palpate. फ्री में छोड़िए अभी करिए एंटीरियर डेल्टॉइड मिडिल डेल्टॉइड एवरीथिंग
So physical signs are important.
That's what I was telling. The approach to the diagnosis is more important than the diagnosis.
Anything else proximally you won't see. I always say that you have two hands. If you are examining a limb, a segment of a limb, distally you go for neurovascular deficit, proximally you go for lymph nodes.
Yes,
And
I checked, sir.
especially it's a case of.
I checked, sir. There is no.
But you
lymphadenopathy.
checked, but you never said. What is
There is no
important
axial
is
lymphadenopathy
what
and
is
supra-
important is what you tell us. Whether you checked or not, we don't know. See, it's like a go down and showroom. You must have a big go down with material, a showroom in front to tell the public. If you have a good showroom and no go down, you will also fail. You must have your knowledge. You show it off to the examiner.
Yeah, what is your diagnosis?
Infective non-union of left humerus shaft due to the food.
Due to what?
Is he right? Infected non-union of the left humerus. That's what you said? Am I right?
Secondary to the
Shaft
fact.
also,
Shaft, yes, sir. Post-traumatic.
Is he right in saying infected non-union? I want to know how many of you are following the case.
yes why and if no then why anybody can answer this is not an exam I think you need guys need to talk somebody say something
Otherwise, we'll pick you up. We'll pick you with your shirt design. Yeah, you're looking at me. Stand up, boy. Black shirt. Yeah, stand up. Yeah, now tell me.
Sir,
You can have lights there so that you can know the shirt design.
Answer. Right or wrong, just answer.
sir, in case of infected non-union, we will have warmth, sir. In case of infected non-union, we will have warmth and tenderness, sir, sometimes.
Anything else?
In this patient, there is no warmth.
No,
There will
anything
be-
else?
There will be discharging sinuses, sir.
Yeah.
In this case, there is no discharging sinus.
So you think infected non-union?
No, sir.
No. So the answer is no. Why did you say infected non-union?
See,
Is there any sign of infection now?
no, sir.
Then why did you say infected non-union?
It is sequel.
If there is no sinus or if there is no warmth at all, you have no reason to say it's infected non-union. Infection could be the cause earlier, but now is it infected non-union or not? No, it's not.
It's a non-union.
for the management. If you say infected, the thing changes. If you say not infected now, then it's totally different.
Post-traumatic, post-infected, non-union with shortening. And and no neurovascular deficit.
How do you manage this case?
I will go with sir, bone grafting. Sir,
That's what. See, you just tell me.
no,
This,
none.
this 1 point is enough for me
Sir.
to send you out for 1.5 years. Don't come for 1.5 years. That means 3 examinations. For 3 examinations, I will devour you if I am the control of the exam or whatever it is. Because, why? Again, black shirt boy, come on, get a why? Yeah, tell me why. I said I will not allow him to come to examination hall for 3 years, so 1.5 years. He made a big blunder here. Yeah, give the mic to him.
Anybody from the audience?
Yeah, investigation. He doesn't want to do any investigation at all.
Straight away you're gone. Just previous case I told.
You want to take any radiograph of the part?
Yes, I want.
He never said that. I asked for an X-ray first. I also said don't say CBPSR first. Say X-ray of the part. That's the first investigation you want to know.
Yeah, what is your radiological diagnosis there?
Non-union of left humerus shaft,
It's a non-union.
left humerus shaft.
Why? Why did you say non-union?
The fracture ends is sclerosed and smooth edged, sir.
What type of non-union is that?
Atropic non-union. Atropic. Yes.
What are the types?
Hypertrophic non-union and oligotrophic non-union and atropic non-unions.
How is the atrophic non-union site actually? Does it have a tapered end or broad end? When you say atrophic, do you see atrophy there?
The fragments are tapered, narrowed.
The size of the
Yes.
canal proximally and distally, are they
Distal.
matching, or they are tapered, they are very small, or they are hypertrophic, or there no much difference?
Decrease.
Non-union, any objection for you?
Sir,
So sir is telling it's hypertrophic or oligotrophic. If you say it's no, then you tell us why.
if it's hypertrophic, we can appreciate thick callus there, sir, at fracture ends. Here is wide end fracture
Exuberant
ends.
callus, an attempt to heal will be there, but still there will be a persistent non-union.
Non-union.
Is it like that?
No, sir.
So then is it atrophic?
Yes.
Why do you say atrophic? Have the ends tapered and become small than what they should be
Close
compared to
the
the proximal and distal?
fracture.
Close means it's non-union.
Yes.
Why atrophy?
Is the size matching distally
Yes,
and proximally?
matching,
with the
so-
medullary canal, if you extend that size at the fracture end, is it matching proximally and distally, or is it smaller, or it's hypertrophic, bigger? I think it's the same. Is it
Matching.
same or it's less? Sir?
Same.
So when you say atrophic, they have a smaller tapered ends. It's like a sucked candy. You suck a candy, it becomes smaller and smaller. So compared to the proximal and distal, the ends will be very, very small. That's atrophic. That means no attempt at union is there. It's not hypertrophic definitely. So somewhere you can say oligotrophic is fine, sir. What we can call that?
So you should know the difference between hypertrophic, allogotrophic, and atrophic. So normally hypertrophic non-unions are there is biological potential for the bone to unite, but something coming in the way.
In it.
Okay. In atrophic non-union, biologically bone is not potential to heal. So that's the difference between these two. Okay. Right. Now what?
Oligotrophics.
Huh?
How can
How do you manage? What is the principle of treatment of a non-union? Hypertrophic non-union. Principle of treatment of a hypertrophic non-union.
First, open reduction. First, open the fracture site and pressure the fracture edges, and we'll put cancellous.
The principle of, as there is no
Bone
time,
grafting.
the principle of treatment of a hypertrophic non-union is freshen the edges,
Yes.
open the medullary canal,
Medullary
stabilize the fracture, whichever way you like. If necessary, go for a cancellous bone grafting. That is the principle of a hypertrophic non-union. That's what we expect from the candidate. Okay? Right. Can you just repeat and then we'll finish it off. Treatment of hypertrophic non-union.
Yes, sir.
Principle of treatment of hypertrophic non-union.
Open the fracture site, freshen the edges, and clear the medullary canal, and if stabilize with fixation, if required, we'll go for bone grafting.
Open the fracture, freshen the edges, open the medullary canal, stabilize the fracture. If necessary, go for a cancellous grafting. Okay?
You want to operate on this man.
No,
You,
sir.
you suspect there is some infection still lingering inside. What investigation you will do?
How do you make out
Infection.
Yeah? Bone scan. Anything simpler than that clinically?
Infection. CR,
ESR and
CRP.
CRP. There are two important investigations, simple investigations, before you proceed. After you open, suppose you still have a suspicion about infection, what do? You open,
Yes. Will
what do? Any investigation there?
yes, sir. Culture sensitivity tissue for culture.
Culture sensitivity. You wait for 24 hours on the operating table to
No, sir.
open wound.
For that time, I will send the culture sensitivity and
How do you
Is that-
confirm that there is no infection?
sir, bleeding edges. Sir, oh, sorry.
You send anything to the lab? Ask for immediate report?
Gram stain,
Fro- fresh, frozen.
stain.
Okay.
Count the cells and gram stain and all, which can be done in 10 minutes. But you don't wait for culture and sensitivity. That takes how long? How long it takes for culture and sensitivity?
72 hours. 48 hours.
48 hours.
40.
On the table, if you still have suspicion, send material for slide, gram stain, and how many pustules are there. Then if you are sure there is no infection, you can proceed further with internal fixation and bone grafting. Is that enough?
Thanks.
Okay. You should be more confident and be simple. Same book, is it? Same. If you make a mistake during presentation, examiner stops you. Don't get deflated there. Be bold again and then continue your presentation. All of us make mistakes during presentation, one or two. If you don't make any mistake, you would have been a consultant, not a candidate. So, if you make a mistake, don't get disheartened and then lower your voice. Keep your voice and then talk. Okay. Thank you.